Alright, so we need Y. So there's our planar reflection on our water. And that looks real nasty over there. What is that? Is that a rock showing through? It's this thing. Just take it out. Yeah, there's no point in that rock even being there. Yeah, that should be fine. Let's static build that and see what it looks like after that. A licorice tea without the bark, maybe. See, a lot of people that I know absolutely hate black licorice, and like, I actually really like black licorice, even when I was like little. People be like, "Ew, only grown-ups like it." Like, whatever, fuck you guys. It's licorice. Anyway, alright, so let's get back to working on this. So, what are we going to do with this waterfall? Let's crack it open and let's... Well, there's a question. And the question would be, should I jump straight into working on random crap with the water, or should I actually go like look up online if anybody's written something about this sort of subject? Nobody's written anything online about making water materials, right? Ever. So let's go take a look. Yeah, ever. Nobody's ever been like, water is everything. Never has there been water rendering on such levels, nor the documentation to back it up. This is absolutely true. Just like for Call of Duty, there was never fish AI before Call of Duty, right? Like, it was unprecedented. And then the only reason that there are fish AI inside of Mario 64 is because basically Iwata made a time machine in the year 2030 and came back to, he grabbed the fish AI from Call of Duty and he put that in there. It's you know, it's just what you got to do as a game developer. Sometimes you got to just be like, well, you know, me in the future is just going to build a time machine, come back and save my ass because we're screwed. And I'll be coming in the door now. It's like, well, there you go. Alright, so what we need is... Let's look up Waterfall Unreal 4. How do I make a waterfall? Unreal 4. Let's see. I'm just wondering, how do you make waterfall? This is like, how is Babby formed? Like, how do you waterfall in Unreal? And yeah, this is a very important part of my game. Please answer. You should download and check out the FX Cave sample. There are some waterfalls. There are several techniques. Coding. Let me see. There's an Unreal 4 FX Cave demo. And they've got waterfalls that look something like this, where you've got like, you know, all these falling water effect things, right? So I mean, those are just planes that are moving, and you know they've got this kind of water flowing down the rocks. But this is like a whole hell of a lot of effects all put together. Like there isn't a single thing here that is doing all this. This is like a whole bunch of effects here, and then like stuff on the rocks, materials, and like all this other shit. And like, there's no way in hell we could put something like that together without just a shitload of work. Yeah, it looks like there's just a bunch of, you know, like this water here, like there's a sheet of it which is just a plane, which is taking this texture which was handmade and all that sort of stuff, and then we've got, you know, the ripples on the water down here coming off these rocks, or more of that stuff. Yeah, there's too much other shit going on in the scene for the ripples to really stand out. Alright, so other people say, I suggest starting from just a mesh with a panning material, create a particle system that features the mesh. Yeah, you know, just make a basic steam cloud thing, which is probably what Adam was doing to start with. He was following the advice from one of these. And then, yeah, or flipbook material control. So let's just keep looking a little bit and see if anybody's got any. Like, we could go open up that Unreal 4 tech demo, but those things are usually a little bit crazy town. Like, they're made for, you know, if you were a 60-person studio, how would you make a waterfall? Versus, if you were one dude in a basement, how would you make a waterfall that doesn't look like complete ass? I love this. I love this. This guy's like, I want to make water flowing on my map. I don't know how to make it. This is what I've got. You know, I've got this stair, you know, here. I want it to look like that, you know. This is Jesus Christ, dude. Oh, that's fucking great. The easiest way would be to use a waterfall plane plus a material that simulates the movement. Either with rain planes, very basic, or with a particle system. You could also simulate the water in the external program. This is not how it's done. He really needs to model this piece and play with materials and vertex anim, and then fill the collision overlap with splashes. Alright, so they got like the material editor. Is this Unreal 3 or something? Yeah, this is from 2014. So he's got like all this other shit going on. I love this. This guy is. You need triplanar texturing. It requires too much manual effort, though. Yeah, that's kind of some of those things. All right, so it seems like basically what you got to do is you got to get in there and get your hands dirty and just kind of figure it out yourself, because we need to go from this to this. Some geomesh on his level, and all of a sudden he wants a AAA river. I know, really. Like, this is like somebody's, you know, master's degree in college would be building this sort of thing using fluid dynamics and then getting it to render, and he'd have to, you know, use the on-campus supercomputer to render it out properly after having this whole thing be a whole bunch of particles flowing with physics over a thing. So, as we don't have access to a supercomputer, nor do we have more than a, you know, we got to figure out, you know, not what's the 4-year waterfall, but what's the, you know, 4-hour waterfall. Right? That's kind of our plan here. So why don't we come up with some ideas for this? Why don't we try to reason out what sort of components do we need? I can do that with an arm. Yeah, that thread is a good laugh. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is usually... It's like, I don't know. We had that one guy on the other day when I was playing Pharaoh, and he's like, hey, I got the game design. And if he ever watches this, he'll probably be pissed off, but I don't really care. He's like, I've got this awesome game design, and, I just need somebody else to make it. And I talk to people, and it'll cost like $2 million. And it's the best game ever. I just need somebody else to do, all the engineering and art and all that for me. And just listen to my amazing design. And I'm like, well, dude, games change as you work on them. And he just didn't fucking listen at all. It's like, well, you're gonna go far, man. Do it. If you can go... Yeah. Alright, so we need to make the waterfall come together as it falls. So what sort of stuff can we do? Like right now, this thing is literally just a color with a panning texture, which is this waterfall pan 1 texture. This is our texture right here. So why don't we slap our texture into our test materials here. Let's do waterfall. Let's copy it. It's like, yeah, that's kind of the thing, is like, when I went to college, the college I went to, like, DigiPen had 580 or something people in the whole school, and it only had a graduating class of, like 80. So you do the math right there, and it's like the incoming class is like, 250 people, or 300 people or something, and then like the rest of the years are like 100 people or less each. And it's just so many people come into the game industry like, I've got all these amazing ideas and like all this other crap, I'm so smart. And then after a year, they're just like, you know what, this is too much fucking work. This sucks. I just want other people to do this crap for me. Be like, you can go to business school, not programming school. Because in order to order people around, you need to have hella cash. That's pretty much it, man. Sorry, but first you gotta be not poor. So work on that first. Alright, so the other thing is we've got this water normals thing, which I'm going to go snag and throw in our test content for water. Let's copy this. Do the minimal amount of work to produce something and sell it. Yeah. I don't know. The minimum... I mean, with games that also... Sadly, that does work to make money. You can just throw a whole bunch of trash out the door, and it does work to a certain degree. You will be quote-unquote profitable pretty easily, especially if you throw away all your morals at the same time. If you're just like, I don't give a shit, I'm just gonna go make something that makes money, and you end up making, like a porn game or something, and it doesn't matter. And there you go. You can do whatever the hell you want with that. So let's see. We're gonna want a surface. Is it opaque, blend mode? Yeah. Or should it be masked? So the question would be, should we mask this object? Newgrounds will love you. Yeah. Go to business school. Shit. Alright, so why don't we see what we actually have. We have pixel depth, we have a world position offset, allows for vertices of a mesh to be manipulated in world space by the material. So we can, why don't we just see what we can do. Okay, so if we want to deform water, we could deform the vertices of the mesh itself. We could mask the waterfall in kind of those curves, right? Like, so if we've got our waterfall here, which is a box, this is a waterfall. Don't let anyone fool you there. And what we could do is, you know, we could make kind of a mask curve sort of thing. And then, you know, this would be all filled in. And, you know, we could kind of cookie cut that out if we wanted. And, you know, if something was going straight down, it would do a bad job. But what we could do is if we had this curve, you know, we could kind of curve our UVs around it, sort of thing. So look kind of like that. So how in the hell would we do that? And we could do that on a per pixel basis. Like if we cut all this out using just like some sort of curve mask or some sort of shit. Yeah, putting a lib in your project and then all those compiler warnings. Yeah, that's... Yeah, usually what you'll do is you'll throw those into like some other project dependency and just forget about them because it's just like, fuck. The worst actually is when you include a library in your project as a DLL, and then you find that it statically allocates some object inside of like the DLL load, and then you're fucked because you can never unload that DLL without like blowing up the world. I'm looking at you, OpenSSL, you fucking piece of crap. So if we get a mask here, we'd be able to mask this thing out and get like per vertex stuff. But what I don't want to do is use a vertex manipulation on this, because what's going to end up happening if we do like a vertex shader sort of thing is, you know, it's going to look like it's going to end up looking, you know, all stupid and crap like this. And it'll just, you know, like all the lines on the entire waterfall will look the same way, right? Like it'll, you know, they don't look right. Like these will all be like straight down here, and then it'll, you know, it's just, it looks like a tree, not like a waterfall. So I think we're gonna have to actually compute the UV coordinates and also compute like some sort of masking element here. So we want like a masked lit material, I believe. Needs more S-curve, yeah. UV bending, yeah. He's beginning to believe. He needs to bend the UVs. And I think that's what we're gonna do is we'll do everything basically in world space. And this will be a masked translucent, not a translucent one. Alright, so this will have to be a masked material. We use the alpha channel. We compute the alpha channel and mask things out. Alright, so UVs need to be curved down the surface. So how exactly do we want to do the curving? So like if we had this waterfall, we're gonna need to like rotate some sort of vector for knowing which direction it is. We could do that later though to start with. I mean, it's actually not that it's like this, if this is a map, right, and we're scaling, you know, if it's just, this whole square is from, you know, to 1, 1. You know, this whole spot here goes from 0 to 1. And this goes from 0 to 1 as well. The difference is we're going from 0 to 1 with like a differing width here. So if we were going to break this apart, you'd have like kind of a cutoff width from like, this would be 0, and then this would be 0 to 1. So this could be negative, and if this was negative, we'd get, and if this was 1 right here for the you know, the U, then what would happen is this is greater than 1, so we would like clip it off or whatever, right? You know, we could do an opacity greater than branch sort of computation. So really all we want for this entire thing is we're just going to, you know, have a curve where as the, you know, this is going to go from 0 to 1 effectively like this. We need to have like some sort of, as we're going to want the width at the bottom here, right? So like if this was 0.2, and then we'd want like a center, so this would be like 0.2 with a base of like 0.4 or something, and then we could, if we linearly interpolated between these, we would get, you know, a triangle. Now, if we did a linear interpolation, we get a triangle that looks like this cut out, and what we want to do instead is, you know, do like an exponential curve down there, and that'll give us like a nice waterfall shape. So we can totally do that with a mask. So the UVs need to be curved down by the surface. So we need a base U width. We need a base U offset, so it can go from, you know, 0 to whatever value we want. We need a curve, I guess a curve function for it, and this is going to be based on an input V, basically. We'll do that sort of thing. Should we have a start? Like, should we, if we had a start, basically what we'd be doing is we'd be changing where this starts, sort of thing, right? Like we could start lower or whatever. So we should have like a U, like a, I guess a V start U, a start V offset, which should be where to start curving the water. And if we look at this thing here, it is semi-transparent, it's translucent, and it's refractive. So are we actually able to use the mask for this? Well, yeah, we could just multiply, you know, by 0 or 1 with our current alpha. But if we want this to be, you know, not a masked object, we want it to be translucent to get this refraction effect, we're going to lose some shadow stuff on this. Like, this won't be able to cast a shadow, but shadows can be cast onto it with Unreal. Alright, so this is not a masked material, this is a translucent material. because no refraction. Smash things out. We need other alpha in there to see through it. Alright, so base U, base V, curve the function, and then we need to apply the UVs to our normal texture and our base texture. Alright. So I think that gives us enough to go on here. So what we want to do first is get just our flat plane working properly. So and we're going to need to pan the whole thing down, aren't we? Ugh. Well, let's not have our panner come in here to start with. Alright, so this can't be opaque, this is going to be translucent. Oh, Jesus Christ. Let's just have the opacity be 1 to start with here. Translucent surfaces default lit, two-sided. How come we don't have normals for a translucent object? Fuck. I mean, would we have to use a subsurface material then to let light come through it? Like you can see the clouds in the background sort of stuff? I'm trying to think, how would we get it to be, we want the normal map in there so we can actually show a little bit more of the surface of the object, but we want it to be partially see-through or something, and that's just not going to work. I mean, if we flip the object over and then, like drew the wrong reflection on it, maybe that would work. Like you take the reflection of something and then like you just flip the object over and then it's like you can see through it, but I don't know if that's even possible with this shit. But that's basically what subsurface stuff. Well, let's look it up real quick. Translucent object with normal map Unreal. Using normal maps on transparent materials. Just turn the translucency lighting mode to teal and surface. It's under transparency tab. Let me select that. Alright, so if we go to translucent, shading model is lighting mode. It's under the translucency tab in the details panel when you select the attribute node. Surface translucency volume, TLM surface, forward shading. Surface translucency volume. Lighting will be calculated for a surface. The light in accumulated in a volume, so the result is blurry light, limited distance, but the per pixel cost is very low. Use this on translucent surfaces like glass and water. Only diffuse lighting is supported. And what's surface forward shading? Lighting will be calculated for a surface. Use this on translucent surfaces like glass and water. This is implemented with forward shading, so special highlights from local lights are supported. However, many deferred-only features are not. This is the most expensive translucency lighting method, as each light's contribution is computed per pixel. Well, let's see if we can use the forward shading model then for this. It's taken a little while. So we've got this kind of trashed here sort of thing going on. Alright, that's kind of what we want to go for. That's not awful. And we've got to do a whole bunch of computation real quick. Hello, Quinto456. Let's render a diamond. We are starting on, and we're messing around with all sorts of stuff here. Why are we still panning this thing? Shouldn't be panning. Well, let's close and reopen the waterfall normals material. Yeah, the panner still got put in there. I don't like this. The material saving stuff just doesn't seem to work all the time. Because the panner over here... Alright, the panner is on the default. Alright, that's fine. Honestly, we'd want it to look like this. If we were going to be panning stuff. Are you making fancy 3D backgrounds for your game? Yes, we are. Right now I'm trying to match this concept art, or get kind of the components of it into a scene in Unreal. So that's what we're doing. So right now this is kind of where we are. You know, we've got a few things going on. Our static lighting needs to be rebuilt. There were some glowing mushrooms on that. You know, some of those guys right there. We're over on that. So I'm going to need a couple minutes here. I'll be right back. So I will just leave this right here and be right back. Alright, so what we need to do now is we're going to be working on that UV curving down our surface. So let's remove our panner from this and just plug our UVs into both things at the moment. So our panner, we know we're going to use U at some point. That's fine. So what we want to do is we want to calculate our U and V based on, I think, world space. But how do we do that? We're going to need well, it's not just world space. It's, from 0 to 1 based on the UVs on the actual thing itself. Let's see, our texture sample is, we're just snagging the texture coordinates, which go from we just have 1 and 1. That's the normals. And this is the other texture. Let's actually open up our waterfall mesh, and can we see the UV mapping? Alright, so it's going from the UV mapping on this thing is actually like, 0 to 1, 0 to 1, 0 to 1, all the way down it. So I'm trying to think about how to actually calculate this stuff, because what I actually need for the UVs is kind of like, I want this to be 0 and I want this to be 1. And at the bottom of the waterfall, based on the world space coordinate of the pixel, I can actually calculate where the water needs to be, and all that. I don't actually want to use the UVs on the waterfall for pretty much anything. So I need like the 4 corners of this thing in world space, like this corner, this corner, this corner, this corner. And then I want like the normal to the waterfall, and then basically like based on the normal to the waterfall surface, I could then use a differing, basis vector for the transformation to figure out, what the tiling should be along. How much X, how much Y to pull out of each thing. So I could take those as parameters to the material and have the blueprint that controls this object pass that in. That's one thing. So, because it's not the world space UVs, so we need to pass in the rectangle, which defines the surface, and this will be future, because I can do it with a base case of like the x-axis is, I'm looking at the axis. I've got a piece of paper on the wall up here that tells me which way is up. Z is up, X is into the screen and all that, so it's basically like we want the Z and Y bottom, top left and bottom right for the rectangle, and then we also need the x-axis would be the normal, so it'd be the normal would be like 1, 0, 0, and then the rect of the thing would be so in world space. All right, so and we wouldn't be passing on the normal. I guess I'd be passing the basis vectors for the UV computation, and that way we could change, like, we could have a waterfall not just straight on like this, but angled like this, angled like that or something, right? So let's blueprint this thing. Let's call this waterfall blueprint. I'm going to throw it into our test concepts water. And I'm trying to we're working on this waterfall from the outside in, trying to deconstruct what properties will eventually make it look like this. And like we have particle effects and other splashes and crap like that. Like that's basically on the blueprint. We'll have different stuff which actually creates this obscuring effect. But for everything else, there's a standard material, hopefully. Alright, so let's get started then with this thing, because it's going to be... This could take... We could spend the entire next 6 hours just screwing around with this waterfall, and I think it would be worth it. So let's just start making stuff. I'm going to pull up my... Not my mushroom, I don't need that. Test water, we don't need that. I'm gonna close a lot of this stuff. Alright, so we got our blueprint. I want to go into, I think, what, landscape or something? Were we messing with the material with last? Or messing with the sky sphere? So where did we actually throw the damn sky sphere? It's in graphics sky. Alright, so let's take a look at how our sky sphere grabs all this stuff. We've got a inside of our construction script, we actually create our sky material, which is inside of material. So we have our sky material and our material instance. Alright, so that's what we're going to need to do. Orphan nodes? What are you talking about, Calvin? Also, a 4.17 preview is available. I'll take a look at that 3 days ago. Yeah, that's why I haven't seen it. Let's see. Because I probably do want to take 4.17 as soon as it's out. Baking out materials on static mesh instances. Physics optimizations, audio, blah blah, static analysis tools. I don't see any crazy secret sauce stuff that's insane. Yeah, just this looks like just a basic update for everything. You know, kind of a we made things better. I don't see anything hot, sweet, and new. Alright, I'll probably skip that update unless, or not get it until it's fully released. I don't see anything that, we already pulled in the bug fixes from 4.17 that were affecting us. Alright, so I'm going to need the material for this object and blueprints set up. So we need to make a variable here, which is going to be our waterfall material. That is going to be a material. Let's get our material reference, and then a material instance. And basically how shaders work with this thing with materials is you want a material instance, and with a material instance you can do stuff. So this will be, we'll tooltip this. This is the material for the waterfall. So inside of our construction script we will I can't change the name of this thing. I'll make a root component, a component, scene component. How come I can't reparent this thing? That is a nice feature. I've seen that a lot of times. Kind of one of the beefs with some of these is when you break something, all of a sudden you have to go hook up all this crap, and if you forget a pin, there's no warning or anything else. It's just like, oh, there you go. You know, it just doesn't work anymore. Good job. Oh, fuck. Alright, so let's see. How to change the parent class of a blueprint asset. Like this blueprint asset class settings, parent class is just, we just want actor. Yeah, fuck you guys, come on. Yeah, and I want to add a static mesh. And I'm going to add this other static mesh to it. Alright, and this material by default should be this test waterfall material. Okay, good. We're back to where we were with the appropriate waterfall material stuff. So there we go. We don't want this static mesh component. We want the waterfall mesh and the waterfall material, and we're going to call create dynamic material instance off of the material that we have on this thing. And we're going to set our waterfall material instance to the return on that. We'll do that in the constructor. It can break your project if you're hot reloading. Yeah, it really can. Because, like, I've seen that. Like, blueprints, one of the nice things about blueprints is you can, edit them visually and do all the stuff, and then, just hit the compile button and start using them real quick. But, they're binary assets. Like, the big thing I'm looking for is if they could change from a binary format to, like, a JSON or XML format. Hopefully JSON. That way you could merge these and also, like, crack open the actual thing and just be like, why is this file broken? Oh, because this is the wrong value. That would be nice. Kind of like even Unity supports that sort of stuff now. Yeah, back in like 2013 or wherever the hell, when Unreal 4 was still not released to the public, we were working with Unreal 4 for our game down in San Diego. And there was a meeting where the engineers were like, should we just add support for, JSON for all of our blueprints and U assets and everything just across the board? Should we just do it at the beginning of the project? And we decided not to because it would take a long time. But I remember some of the fallout of that later when we were trying to do some merge stuff and it was just not working. And the tech director was just like, we already had this conversation. Stop bitching. Just go solve the problem. We don't have enough time to do it. Otherwise, we won't have enough time. So suck it up. And it's like, we already had the big meeting and discussions and all that crap. We're finished. But I really wish Epic... So Epic had that feedback years and years ago. So they must have other things that they need to do. Alright, so we've created our dynamic material instance. We're going to need to pass in our corners so that we can do our computation here. So how are we going to get our corners for our top left and all that stuff? It's going to be like the extents of the object. Is there some way to get the extents of our object and all child objects? Or can we get the extents of the waterfall mesh after its transformation? Let's see. If we've got our waterfall mesh, let's see if we can get our extents. Alright, so it's what, get local bounds or something? Alright, so we have get local bounds, and then we want to transform those things. Let's see, let's see if there's a bounds, get component bounds. Let's see what this thing is. Get bounds, origin, box, extent, sphere radius. Well, let's see what it gets for us. So we're just gonna print it out and make sure it actually is giving us the right stuff before we jump on the bandwagon of actually using it. It caters specific to development ideals. Yeah, well, they're on this whole VR binge at the moment because that's, you know, quote unquote the next big thing. You know, I was at Steam Dev Days last year in October, and Tim Sweeney got up on stage to talk about the metaverse and how we're going to be, you know, living inside of a virtual reality for all this crap, and the way forward for that was like, you know, VR all over the place, and we're going to need real powerful computers for it. Shit. It was pretty funny. We'll split this guy out and throw him in here. $316 volume stream stuck with selling to a high-end audience. How does that equate to development time versus return on investment? About the industry. Yeah, that was one of the big, you know, the big thing right now is pretty much, you know, are we going to be making high-end or low-end stuff for all this? All right, so the origin is at, wait, what the fuck? How come we're running this like 4 times?